I mean, it's GTA Trilogy, the Definitive Edition. Like, have you played it? It's not great. Like, it's okay, but it's not great. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later. Hey y'all, RGT here. And obviously, this is kind of an interestingly titled video, and it's something that you probably didn't even necessarily think of, but I've been seeing this sort of pop up on social media more and more, and it's not necessarily about the quality of the games, although we will be discussing that in this video. It's more about the disappointment levels and the media coverage when it comes to these games, because it seems like a lot of people feel like Super Mario 3D All-Stars was treated unfairly, especially in light of this GTA trilogy. When you look at things like the games included, the improvements done to these games, and the price point of these games, as they both released at $60. So I kind of want to talk about both of these games being a disappointment in this video and sort of gauge why, you know, one game is talked about a little bit more than the other game. Because obviously when Super Mario 3D All-Stars was announced and we started learning about things from these versions of the game, people were very, very critical about it. Many people were upset about it. I mean, I was one of those people. I definitely had problems with the way this package was delivered. And then we got the GTA Trilogy, the Definitive Edition, and it's just like, wow, you know, this for $60, like, it's not great. So I kind of want to compare and contrast these two games and find out what the bigger disappointment was, which I feel like we already know that, but I want to talk about more or less why these two games are being brought up sort of side by side. So if this is your first time on the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button, be sure to like and share the video. But without any further ado, let's jump into this topic. So Super Mario 3D All-Stars. Obviously this game released last year, consisting of Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy. Three different games from three different systems, obviously the Wii and the GameCube. I mean, were they really that different besides the motion controls? I'll let you decide. I mean, realistically, the GameCube had better graphics than the Wii. You could do progressive scan on some of the games and they look freaking fantastic, but we're not here to talk about progressive scan stuff because I've talked about that before. There's other videos on the channel that showcase the beauty of the progressive scan with the GameCube, but you had three 3D Mario platformers included in a bundle that released, of course, for $60. And then recently we had GTA Trilogy, the Definitive Edition, consisting of Grand Theft Auto 3, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, and Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Three games that released originally on the PlayStation 2 that were supposed to be getting a host of improvements. We didn't really see much from these games. These games came out at $60. No review codes were given for this game, and a lot of people feel like there was a bait and switch about it. Now, obviously, some people have been vocal about the sort of fallout from this situation and just the general lack of quality when it comes to the GTA Trilogy games, because, I mean, realistically, they're still fun. I will always champion that these games are still fun, but they're fundamentally flawed in what you would expect from a remastered package. Then what's the comparison all about? Why are people even mentioning Super Mario 3D All-Stars in the same breath as Grand Theft Auto Trilogy? I think there's a bunch of different factors when it comes into this. First off, you have to look at the companies involved, Rockstar and Nintendo. Now, obviously, people put a lot of stock into these companies, whether it's literally putting money into their stocks like I am when it comes to Nintendo, or just the fact that these are two very reputable companies that a lot of us grew up on, and companies that honestly, they have a level of quality to their games. You have a certain expectation when you play a Nintendo first party title. You have a certain expectation when you play a Rockstar game. You expect them to be well done games because most of the time that's what you get with these two companies. Now with Super Mario 3D All-Stars, many of the complaints were that there wasn't really enough enhancements done to these games. A game like Super Mario 64, of course, this game did not feature widescreen support, whereas Mario Sunshine and Mario Galaxy both had widescreen support. So the overall package felt a little bit half-assed. They were pretty much just cut and paste port jobs of the original game. Sure, there was minor graphical enhancements done to the games and whatnot, but really when you boil it down, they were essentially the same games. No added content, no real incentive to go back and play these games for the millionth time unless you were a fan of them. Now, as a game like GTA and that whole trilogy is concerned, sure, they've been sort of re-released on modern platforms over the past, couple years because these games are very popular. They always sell well. I mean, Grand Theft Auto is a lot like Mario. Mario games sell well, Grand Theft Auto games sell well. And with these games, I feel like there was a little bit more mystery, whereas Nintendo pretty much gave you the indication of what to expect with these games in terms of what enhancements were going to be done. I mean, in that initial trailer, you literally saw that Super Mario 64 was not a widescreen game, whereas with these games, we saw very minimal from them. You know, Rockstar released a little trailer that was like 50 seconds long that just showed off basically the new graphical assets that were being utilized in the game and the new character models and whatnot, but they really didn't deep dive into it, sort of like we saw with the 3D All-Stars collection. So I feel like expectations were a bit higher for the Grand Theft Auto trilogy because of that unknown factor. I feel like if we had saw an extended look at the gameplay like we did with the Super Mario 3D All-Stars titles, we would have expected, you know, we would have been more in line with the expectations of what we were getting with this game, and everything with that happened so fast. Now, you could say the same thing about Super Mario 3D All-Stars. That game was unveiled and then released like a month later, and this is a sort of similar situation that we saw with the GTA Trilogy, the Definitive Edition. But obviously, both games have their own shortcomings. From a technical perspective, it's definitely easy to say that Grand Theft Auto Trilogy, the Definitive Edition, is not the definitive edition of the game, because whereas Super Mario 3D All-Stars, all of those games, they played the way they're supposed to play. Sure, there could have been more done to those games, but at the end of the day, they still played the way they were supposed to play, and they were still well-received games. Grand Theft Auto Trilogy, the Definitive Edition, incorporated a lot of new problems and a lot of new issues when it comes to just the core gameplay experience. Things like the frame rate issues hampering the game on all platforms. So when you start to factor in that sort of stuff, you start to get a bigger picture of why Grand Theft Auto Trilogy, the Definitive Edition, is indeed the bigger disappointment. Like I said at the start of the video, it is the bigger disappointment, but you're starting to see a lot of people say, well, why is the gaming media not talking as much about GTA Trilogy, the Definitive Edition, being a disappointment when everyone was all over Super Mario 3D All-Stars? And I mean, I was all over that game, but I've also been all over Grand Theft Auto Trilogy, the Definitive Edition. And I think the main thing is the way that Rockstar handled this game, because like I said back a few minutes ago, Rockstar was super secretive about this game when it came to, you know, releasing footage from it. When it came to anything regarding this game as far as the gameplay was concerned, Rockstar didn't do any of this. The only way to get a copy of this game to review was to purchase the game. Nobody got a free copy of this game. Nobody got an early copy of this game to sort of check it out. Whereas Super Mario 3D All-Stars, of course, people got this game early and they knew what to expect. They knew what they were getting into. Whereas with GTA Trilogy, you didn't know. You didn't know what the hell was going on. You just assumed, okay, it's going to be these same 3 core games with improved graphics. Like, that sounds like a home run. But once you start to introduce gameplay issues because of things like frame rate, because of things like slowdown, because of general changes made to the gameplay mechanics, then you start to get into the big problem with this situation. And I do feel like Super Mario 3D All-Stars was definitely talked about way more in a negative light than GTA Trilogy, the Definitive Edition, but that's just because of time. We've had a lot of time to sit back and look at Super Mario 3D All-Stars. You can go look at the Metacritic of the game, and I mean, at the end of the day, it's very solid. We are just now starting to get publications coming out with reviews for these games, which, I don't know, I find that kind of odd, to be honest with you, because I'm sure somebody on the original team played these games back in the day and knew what to expect from a gameplay perspective. Really, you're just looking at what has changed from a graphical perspective of the game, which of course introduced a lot of bugs and glitches and things of that nature, which I don't know why I keep saying things of that nature. Somebody keep a tally on how many times I say that in a week. I'll buy you a soda or something like that. But it's obviously something that's becoming more and more prevalent as the time goes on with these games, as more people are playing these games and as more reviews are starting to come out about these games, because now you look at the Metacritic and you're seeing a lot of 5s on GTA Trilogy, the Definitive Edition, where, I mean, you weren't seeing that with Super Mario 3D All-Stars. And the reason why is that at the end of the day, Super Mario 3D All-Stars was still a great compilation, a great playing compilation of 3 Mario games, whereas GTA Trilogy doesn't play all that great. It's still fun. I'll always say it's still fun. I'm still playing Vice City a bunch, but still, you could see that this was a half-assed effort. And yeah, you could definitely say Nintendo half-assed the Super Mario 3D All-Stars collection. They could have done so much more to celebrate this collection. They could have added in a bunch of extra stuff. They could have added in, you know, like a museum or something. Like, really, it was the 3 games, slight graphical enhancements, and a soundtrack. But I think at the end of the day, I would rather take that compilation in terms of what they did, slight graphical upgrades, a little soundtrack, than deal with the GTA Trilogy situation. Because if they would have done that, if they would have given the Super Mario 3D All-Stars treatment, we all would be loving these games. This compilation would be getting 10 out of 10. Nobody would be upset by it because it just looks a little prettier, but you could play it on your modern platform. So has gaming media been unfair to Super Mario 3D All-Stars and giving GTA Trilogy a pass? I don't think so. I mean, if you watch this channel, we've been talking about all the drama situated around it. We've been talking about a lot of the issues situating around it. It's just, when it comes to traditional gaming media, you got to get approvals from people. You got to approve this article. You have to give it time because they're not like YouTubers who could just turn on a camera and maybe they could talk off the top of their head like I can. I don't really script nothing on this channel. Maybe reviews I'll script, but when it comes to this sort of stuff, I just like the intimate setting. I like the personal one-on-one. So really, you just need to change your gaming focuses. Don't worry so much about the mainstream media. I mean, those sons of bitches said that Cyberpunk 2077 is in competition for RPG of the Year in the Game Awards. Do they really know what they're talking about? Because I could think of a bunch of RPGs that are better than that game. But I just wanted to sort of talk about this topic because, like I said, I see it popping up more and more on social media. Obviously, it's a little bit biased because I do follow a lot of Nintendo accounts, but I've seen even like PlayStation and Xbox guys talking about this too. So I just wanted to sort of bring up a discussion point with this and sort of get your guys' impression on what you feel. Obviously, GTA Trilogy is the more disappointment when it comes to this, but do you think that the media has been unfair with this game versus Super Mario 3D All-Stars, whereas we had all this drama building up to the release of the game with that game, but we didn't have any of the drama like we had with that with GTA? But that's kind of because, like I said, Nintendo put that game out there a bit more, whereas Rockstar was very hidden. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Give me some feedback in the comments section down below. And yeah, I've got my X-Men Arcade 1-Up cabinet coming in later today. Super excited for that. I will do a full video on that. Hopefully we'll be up by tomorrow. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later. I almost forgot to do a finger.